In this PureRAW 5 video, I want to talk about the masking panel, otherwise known as the ability to selectively edit in PureRAW 5. This is the image that we're going to be working with here, and I've brought it in to show you how grainy it really is. This image was shot at ISO 11,400. Yeah, I really had to crank things up for this image to be able to shoot at a high enough shutter speed at night to get a decent exposure. So there you go. This is what I'm dealing with. So what I need to do is I need to reduce the noise, hold on to as much detail as possible, and we're gonna use the masking tool to see what we can achieve with this. So let's move on over there. Okay, so here's our image inside PureRAW 5. Over here in the corrections panel, you can see that we have the navigator window up here. And for the denoising and demosaicing process option, I have chosen Deep Prime XD2S, which uses ultimate quality and extra detail. Probably could have used the Deep Prime 3 just as easily, but you have to choose one, so this is what I've chosen. Now, if we look down a little bit further, we can see that the luminance and the force details values are at their default. Just below that, optical corrections for the lens sharpness optimization chosen standard. Just trying to keep things in a normal workflow here. So let's take a look at the image. You can see with the split view that I've got going on here, that on the left, this is what the image looks like with all the noise. And then this is what the image looks like with the XD2S process method. Now, as far as I'm concerned, it's a little bit much, but we're going to see how we can actually use varying amounts of the luminance reduction and the force detail to selectively enhance this image. What I'd like to do is I'd like to get a little more detail back in here and in the jersey. I think that's gotten a little bit too smooth. And if it's too smooth there, then it's going to be too smooth in other areas of the other team's jersey as well. So let's see what we can do. When we denoise an image or try to reduce the noise in our image, one of the things that's really difficult for software engineers to achieve is the denoise, which is blurring of your image, and then to be able to maintain important detail. So that being said, luminance at 40, not so good with this here. Looks too plasticky as far as I'm concerned. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to reduce that value down to 20. And instantly you can see that I've got a little more structure and detail going on in there. Now that I can live with. That actually has turned out quite well. Quite well. Yeah, I'm happy with that. So I can possibly force some details, or I can actually change the lens sharpness optimization, but I think I'm going to stick with this for now. So let's go to the next panel, which is the masking panel. And the first thing you'll notice when we're in here is on the right-hand side over here, we have a layer mask panel. And, well, we've got all kinds of stuff going on in here. All right, so right now by default, when we come in here, this software will create a brand new layer mask ready for us to edit. And the default name is Layer Mask 01. And just like all other applications, if I was to create a next or another layer mask, it'd be Layer Mask 02, 03, ... I strongly suggest that we get in the habit of naming our layer mask names relevant to the area or the content that we're working on. Just in case we end up with multiple layers, we want to be able to choose the right one the first time we click on it. Okay, all right. Down below here, we have the Create New mask. Over here, we have the Duplicate the mask. And over here we have the invert mask. And I'll show you about the duplicate and invert and all that kind of stuff a little bit later on. Notice also that when we came over here, we brought over the same process method as we had in the corrections panel with the same value for this and for that. Well, actually we don't. We have the default sitting here. Let's go back over to the correction panel. And here we have luminance of 20. And we come over here and we're defaulting back to the original. So let's just see how this ends out, right? I'm thinking that I want to put this back down to 20. We're going to leave that alone. And we're going to leave the lens sharpness optimization alone. All right, so now one thing you will notice is we have a paintbrush here. Trying to find a good place to show you. Right in the center, there's a paintbrush, and the size of that brush is 10. That's why you only see a little red dot there. But if I click on this and bring it up to, say, 38, that's a good size. The feather value is at 29, and I'm thinking I might want to put that at 50. And I'm just tabbing my way through to these other input fields. I'm going to leave the flow at 100%, and I'm going to leave the opacity at 100%. The next thing is your mask color, and then we're showing our mask, meaning that when I start to paint, we're going to actually see where I'm painting as opposed to having the mask turned off. I think I want to bring this down to 40. See, that's probably a little bit better. All right, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to start painting in the area that I want to affect change in. And I'm just going to come in here and do this. And I'm going to finish up painting just like this. There you go. So now what I want to do is I'm going to give this a second to update because I want to paint in some more areas. And past experience has shown me that if I try to paint in another area or a second area on the same layer mask while it's updating, it's not going to paint for me. So we'll be right back. Okay, so we're finished updating there. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to paint some more over here on the player's arms. And we're just going to come in, paint this. What I'm going to do while I'm kind of going through this and painting here, and I'm only going to come up and cover half of his bicep because I want you to actually see what's going on. If there is anything to see, I want you to be able to see that. And since I don't want you to watch me paint forever and a day, I'll be back when I'm finished painting. Yes, I could increase the brush size, but I'm lazy right now. Okay, so we're almost finished the painting. Let's get in here and do some of this, get this last little bits done. I'm not going to do a perfect job here. After all, it's just a demonstration. Okay, so now that I've got this done, I'm going to come over here, double click on the default layer mask name, and I'm going to just type in arms jersey. There you go. So when I move my cursor outside of the document window, I don't see the mask. When I bring it back in, I do. Now, if I come over here and click on don't show the mask, no matter what I do, we're not going to see it. But I want to see it for now. Okay. So now what I want to do is I want to create another mask separate for the football. Notice the football is lacking some texture and detail. And we all know, if we've actually ever seen or held a football, we know that there is supposed to be a little bit more than what we're seeing in there, at least from my experience. So I'm going to come over here and I'm going to click on the create new mask. I'm actually going to double click and rename it right away. The enter key, get that to be accepted. Then I want to paint the football. To select it. Okay, so we're almost done the football. Good. All right. Now I want to change some of these values here. And the one thing I want to change for sure is the force detail. I want to see if this is going to date right away. All right, well, I really don't see that much up there. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to change the sharpness optimization to hard. And now we'll see something 100% come in there. All right, so now that that's finished updating, we can see the football definitely has more texture. And that has to do with the optical correction lens sharpness optimization choice we made, which now that we're updated with the football mask, we can see that there is a lot of texture and detail in there. Now, the other thing I want to point out is up here, we can definitely see the difference between the default and up here was the initial default of 40 and 0. And down here, we can see that we are applying a luminance of 20. So if I come over here and click on this, we have this mask here, which is the arms and all that kind of stuff. And we can see that the luminance value is set to 20. The force detail is set to 0. If we look up here on the arm, we can see that the original from the corrections panel, click over here, we'll see that, is set to 40 and 0 with the standard setting there. So we can change some things around a little bit. We got this guy over here, which is the football, and we can see that that is luminance of 20, but force detail is way up, and we're using the lens sharpness optimization choice of hard to bring out the detail there. Okay, so now that we've seen how we can edit our image selectively in PureRAW 5, what I want to do now is I want to show you how the duplicate and invert mask options would work. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to create a new mask, and I'm going to name this players, and I'm going to select these guys. So I'm just going to do a really rough mask selection here. All right, so now the player's mask is done, complete, and you can see that I have my luminance set to 20 and my force detail set to 40, and the lens sharpness optimization is set to strong. Now what I want to do is I want to apply different values to the background. So first thing I do is come over here and duplicate the mask. I'm going to double click and name this background. Then I'm going to invert the mask. And if I come over here, you can see the mask has been inverted. And now what I'm going to do is I'm going to apply nothing at all to that. And let's say 20 to that. And I'm going to come back here and I'm going to set that to soft. That I've got this set up this way, my background is going to be softer. My subjects are going to be a little crispier with a little more detail and all that fun stuff. And then what I can do is I can turn these guys off and export this out, and just these guys will be applied. That wraps up masking in DxO's PureRAW 5. Thanks for watching. Don't forget to hit the like and subscribe buttons. Helps the algorithm. And there are links below in the description for the discounts if you decide that this software is something that you want to explore. Thanks until next time. Happy editing.